And so I'm excited to be here. I'm excited today to wrap up our 10-part series. And so you're like, man, 10 parts, golly, that's a lot. And it is, it really is. Man, we have covered so much in this series called King Size Lessons, where we've looked at the lives to this point of 9 different kings. And we've learned some what to-dos, right, in life. And then we've learned some what maybe not to-dos. We've looked at different things like how insecurities can ruin your destiny and how our heart should be postured toward the Lord. And we've learned the value of wisdom. We've learned what it's like to trust the Lord. We've learned what could happen if division were to creep in and how to navigate that and avoid that. We've looked at pride. We've looked at being strategic in our life. We've learned how to find freedom. A lot has been unpacked in this 10-part series. And so I want to challenge you and encourage you, if you've missed some of it, man, go on our YouTube channel, check it out, get caught up. You won't regret it. There has really been some great messages. But today we're going to wrap the series up looking at our 10th king. And today we're going to talk about King Jehu. And so the story of Jehu can be found in 2 Kings 9 and 10. And so I'm going to warn you, we're not going to get into all of the things that unfold in the story of Jehu because it's a lot. And if you like action movies, if you like violent, like maybe war or war type movies, man, go read 2 Kings 9 and 10, and it is for you. Like it's a lot happens. There's a lot of death that occurs. But this is what the Lord had decided needed to happen, right? And so Jehu was just doing what he was told. And so we're not going to really get into all of that. We're going to look at a characteristic that the Bible specifically gives to Jehu, and we're going to just we're going to wrap this series up, looking at this one specific characteristic of Jehu's life. And so I want to read out of 2 Kings chapter 10, verse 16, the Bible says, Jehu said, "Come with me and see my zeal for the Lord." Come with me and see my zeal for the Lord. So today we want to talk about zeal because it is the X factor. It is the X factor. And so when you think about that term, the X factor, what comes to mind? Generally it's something that we feel like can have the most significant impact on the outcome at hand. Like, what are we trying to achieve? This is going to have a significant impact on the outcome. Or maybe it's that one thing that puts us over the top. Anybody a chef in here? Anybody like to cook? And I'm not just saying you cook for your family, like you really like to cook and you're good at it. Maybe you've got a secret sauce, right? It's like your X factor. Like it's the thing that you don't tell anybody what it is, but when everybody eats your food, they're like, man, that was different, right? We're talking about today zeal as the X factor. And so, I warned you last time when I spoke, I kind of let you guys off easy. I didn't really give you a lot of sports analogies, but I am a coach and I like sports, and it's just a big part of what we do in our life. And so you may get a little bit of that today. So don't gloss over and glaze over and tune me out. I promise it will be relevant. But when I thought about this, I had this vision of this commercial that used to come on, and it may still come on some, but it was a Capital One commercial, I think. And you've got these little boys on a basketball playground, and they're tiny, they're young. And they're playing a pickup game of basketball. And so every time, you have a schoolyard pick, right, you got 2 team captains that are going to pick the teams. And so one of the players on the court, but in the midst of these small kids, is 6'6" Hall of Fame basketball player Charles Barkley. And so he's standing there just like everybody else waiting to get picked. And, every time you have a schoolyard pick, like you want to have first pick because you're going after the alpha that's left in the group, right? And so Of course, the first pick of this little schoolyard draft is Charles Barkley, because that kid knew that he is the X factor and that if he's on my team, we are head and shoulders above the other team, and we have that thing that's going to put us over the top. And so today, as we talk about zeal, I want you to think about it in that context. And so what is zeal? Just in case you're like me and sometimes you question your remembrance of vocabulary. I'm a math guy, not a language and English, reading and all that kind of guy. I like numbers. I don't like the other side of the page, other side of the story. So zeal simply, right, is great energy or enthusiasm in pursuit of a cause or an objective. So Romans chapter 12, it says, never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervor serving the Lord. And so the New Living Translation says it a little different. It says, never be lazy. How many of you are lazy? Don't raise your hand. I, at times in my life, have encountered lazy. Like some days I'm just like, man, I don't want to do anything. I know I've got this list of stuff, but today I just want to be lazy, right? That can't be our norm, okay? Sometimes we need a rest, we need a break. But the reality is that we just can't be lazy, especially when it comes to us serving the Lord. And we should do it with energy and enthusiasm because, just being honest, when somebody is energetic and enthusiastic about whatever the task is at hand, it doesn't matter how bad the task is to you. If they're excited about it, then the reality is that more than likely you're going to get excited too. And so, obviously, serving the Lord is not bad, but I'm just saying, big picture, right? When we see enthusiasm, when we see excitement, it's attracting, okay? And so we want to have zeal for the Lord. Because I honestly think if we're going to be successful in serving Him, if we don't have that X factor in our lives, then man, maybe we're not going to be able to fulfill all that He has for us. Man, we've got to have excitement. We've got to be energetic. We've got to be ready to serve Him. And so today we're going to unpack this story of King Jehu, and I want to give you 4 points as we read through this story. And so let's read a little bit. Starting in 2 Kings chapter 9 in verse 1. It says, meanwhile, Elisha the prophet had summoned a member of the group of prophets. It says, get ready to travel, he told him, and take this flask of olive oil with you. Go to Ramoth Gilead and find Jehu, son of Jehoshaphat, son of Nimshi. Call him into a private room away from his friends. Pour this olive oil over his head and say to him, this is what the Lord says. I anoint you. How many of you have had a moment where you're like, man, I really feel like the Lord said this, right? Hopefully, that's all of you. If not, man, keep praying. I promise you, He speaks, and you need to be ready to hear His voice because you will have some this is what the Lord said moments. And you're going to, as we unpack this story, you're going to have some situations like Jehu encounters. And so he said, this is what the Lord says. He says, I anoint you to be king over Israel. He said, then open the door and run for your life. Now, this is Elijah telling him to go do this. So Elijah's the prophet, and he's like, man, I'm going to send another guy to do this. And we'll kind of, if you read all of 2 Kings 9 and 10, you're like, man, I can see why Elisha just sent somebody else. But anyway, so it says the young man, the young prophet, he did what he was told. He went, and then he arrived, he got there, he found Jehu sitting around with other army officers. And so at this point, Jehu, he's just a commander in the army, right? And he says, I have a message for you, commander. And Jehu's like, who? Which one of us? And he's like, you. And so Jehu left with him, and they went into the house. And then the young prophet, he poured the oil over Jehu's head, and he said, this is what the Lord said. He says, I anoint you king over the Lord's people, Israel. You are to destroy the family of Ahab, your master. And so we've talked about all these different kings, right? We've encountered Ahab. We've encountered Jezebel. And so in this way, I will avenge the murder of my prophets and all the Lord's servants who were killed by Jezebel. There she is. It says the entire family of Ahab must be wiped out. The entire family. I will destroy every one of his male descendants, slave and free, like anyone in Israel. I will destroy the family of Ahab as I destroyed the families of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, and the other guy. Dogs will eat Ahab's wife, Jezebel, at the plot of land in Jezreel, and no one will bury her. Then the young prophet opened the door, and he ran. And so I know why he ran, because all of that stuff that he just talked about, it happened. And if you read on, all of that goes down. And so Jehu, he's sitting there, and he's like, all right, I got you. And so he went back, and he sat down with his officers. It says he just went back to his fellow officers. Jehu just got anointed king, and he just goes back and sits down with his guys. And they're like, what did that guy want? What did that madman want is what this translation says. It says, is everything okay? He's like, man, a guy like that, they just babble on. And so Jehu's gotten this word. He knows who he is, right? He knows what this means, okay? And so he's just kind of like playing it off. And they're like, you're hiding something. Tell us what's going on. And he's like, man, the dude just told me that the Lord said I'm going to be king. And they're like, what? Like, you're going to be king? And so, back then, here in America, right, when we want to have a president, what do? We vote, right? And so we all go out to the poll, or it doesn't mean president. It can be mayor, it can be governor, it can be whatever. Like, we go and we vote on who's going to lead us at different levels of government. Well, back then, when the prophet spoke, when the word of the Lord came and the prophet spoke, this is what it was. Like, this is how it was going to be. There wasn't a vote. And so these guys know the importance of this message that Jehu has just received. But where did it take place? Where did it take place? Jehu, he was pulled aside, which was a little bit different, and he was taken into some back room where he was given the most important word that he had received in his life into this point. Hey, you're gonna be king. You're gonna be king. And so, as you read through the story of Jehu, he goes on to do everything that this prophet just gave to him. The word of the Lord, he goes on and he accomplishes it, right? For the most part. And so he kills these kings. He kills Jezebel. He kills all the descendants of Ahab. He killed and destroys all of the Baal worshipers and their temples. Like, a lot of stuff happens. And so I want to look at a few points that we can pull out of this story to help us understand why zeal is the X factor. And so number one, the first point is that zeal is fostered in private. Zeal is fostered in private. Or maybe we could say it is developed in private. So here he is. He's taken into this room off away from everybody else, and he's given this huge assignment. He's given this word that changes his life, but he's given this word in private. How often do we truly value our private time with the Lord? I want to ask you that question. I want you to search your heart. I want you to search your life, and I want you to really think about, man, what does my private time with the Lord look like? Does it exist? Where am I when it comes to that? Because in this day, like, this would have been potentially a public display. It would have been a bigger deal. This happened in private. And so I think the Lord was trying to show us here that, man, sometimes you just have to get in a place where it's just you and the Lord, and you've got to work some things out. You've got to be prepared. You've got to get things in order so that you can go out and you can accomplish whatever is set before you. How many of you have ever had what maybe you call like a brainchild moment? Like, you have this huge idea, you've got this thing that's in your mind that you want to accomplish, and you've really got to sit down and you've got to think some things through. How many of you do that well in an open setting with a lot of noise? Anybody? Oftentimes, no. My office, the way that it's set up, like I'm always an open door guy. Like my door is never closed unless I'm in a private meeting with a few people or whatever. Like my door's always open. And so, but there's a kitchen in the middle of our office area where people come and sit and maybe business happens or whatever. It's just kind of a spot for people to meet. Well, oftentimes it's very distracting. Okay, and so I have to put my earbuds in. Like a lot of times I have one earbud in and maybe I've got some music playing or something. But oftentimes I have to put both earbuds in. And then there's certain people that come in that are just loud. I have to put both earbuds in, turn on noise cancellation, and shut the door. Because like I've got to, there's sometimes when you're doing something and you just need a private moment. Like you need to be able to sit down and to focus. And that's what the Lord was saying right here in this moment. Like, hey man, this is a big deal. You're fixing to have to do some things that are not going to be easy. And I need you to understand and realize that like this is real. This is real. And so we have to have that time in private where we just focus on us and the Lord. You know, I've told you guys before, as throughout my life when I've really, when I got saved and really started living for the Lord, like I have, different places in my home or whatever that like, it's just like the windows of heaven open and like I can truly legitimately just focus and hear from God. For years, it's been the shower. Like nobody's around, there's noise, I can't hear anything, and I'm just able to just focus. Where is that place for you? Like Jesus challenged us, hey, look, don't go and just pray and be all out in the open and make a big spectacle of things. Like, hey, look, if you really want to pray, go into a spot where it's just you and the Lord and just get there and spend time with him, because that is where growth happens. That is where you can truly hear my voice and you're not distracted. How many of you have been praying and you're like, man, I'm praying for something serious, and then you have a thought come into your mind and you're like, oh, did I forget to blow out that candle or turn off the oven or whatever, and like your mind just goes and just like a squirrel ran by, right? If we can go and we can get in that place of private and just learn how to focus our hearts and our minds on him, then our lives will change. Zeal, our excitement, our enthusiasm, it starts in private. It starts in private. That's where it's birthed. Point number 2. I'm sorry. Let me back up. How many of you have ever, thinking about something being birthed in private, something being birthed where nobody's watching, how many of you have ever been new to something and you were new but you wanted to get better at it? Anybody ever been there? I've played sports, and I played baseball from the time that I was like 3 till I was 18, and then after that, you retire from your sport and you go play slow pitch softball and you try to relive the glory days, right? And so I've been a part of sports for a while, and then I had kids, and so I started coaching them. And I just like most kids that are playing a sport, whatever sport it is, a lot of times you have this thought that, man, I want to be the best that I can be, one day maybe be a professional athlete. And so that was my dream. That was my goal. And so I didn't get good overnight. I know what it takes, the work that it takes to pour into something and get good at it, right? And so I started doing some thinking, started doing some digging, and like I said, I love baseball, and so I love stats, and I'm just like, man, I obviously I didn't make it to the major leagues. I didn't even play in college, but there's some Major League Baseball players out there that they're all really, really good, but some of them are like a little bit above the rest. Like they're the cream of the crop at what they do. And so I started thinking, what's the most important position on the field? And so take away the pitcher, take away the catcher. Like, what's the most important position on the field? So I started thinking shortstop. Who's the best shortstop in major leagues? And, you may have your opinion. It doesn't really matter. I focused in on Bobby Witt Jr. He's young. He's up and coming, just signed a huge contract. I've gotten to meet him a couple of times. We knew his wife. And so I was like, let me go look up some of his stats. He's pretty good. So this guy, right, he's the cream of the crop, one of the top shortstops in Major League Baseball, one of the best baseball players in the world. He, in 99 games, when I looked up these stats, he had over like 375 opportunities to make a play, right, to get somebody out. And in all of these opportunities, you know how many times he made an error? 5 times. 5 times. Now, that's very few. And like I was looking at some of the other guys that are above him on that list. There were 3 or 4 names above him on that list. Even better, they had made an error as low as 2 times. So think about that. These guys aren't getting better in the games that they play. Where are they getting better at? They're getting better at practice. They're getting better at home. They're getting better where? In private. In private. We're not just going to walk out here into life and have it all figured out with our walk with God. Man, we've got to spend time with him in private and develop some of the things that he wants to develop on the inside of us. So number 1, zeal is fostered in private. Number 2, zeal will cause you to be faithful in the middle. Zeal will cause you to be faithful in the middle. And so here we have Jehu, who was given this word that, man, you're going to be king, but you've got to go and you've got to take care of some things first. I need you to go and make sure all of these people are dealt with. And so he's caught in the middle of what has been, right? So what has been in Israel? It's been dysfunction. It's been idol worship. All of this stuff under Ahab's reign has been basically just running rampant. And so he's like, look, you got to take care of that. And so he's caught in the middle of what was, what has been, and what could be, right? This anointing on him to bring change. How many of you, when you start out to do something, maybe it's start a business, maybe you're starting a new job, maybe you just got married, maybe you just became a parent, and you're just super excited about what's going on, this new thing, right? We always get excited at the beginning of something when we start something new. Right? And then maybe you're in a project, maybe you have a task at hand, maybe it's something that's taken you a long time, and you're getting close to the end, right? And we always are excited, what? To finish. Sometimes we get stuck in the middle. Sometimes we get stuck in the middle. Maybe we get discouraged. How many of you have ever been in the middle of something and you're just like, man, I just think I need to quit, right? And so, you know, Tori was talking about the school building. And I had a moment the other day where I was out there and I was doing some work and I had gotten some progress going and man, I just ran into a snag and I just wanted to quit. Like I was so frustrated, I was so hot, I was so tired, my body was hurting. I was like, man, I just want to quit. I was like, no, I got to do it the right way. And so I go back and I have to redo something and tear something out and do it. But like we just get stuck where we get frustrated and we get discouraged and we want to quit. And so I want to challenge you and let you know that, man, our zeal for the Lord will help us to stay faithful in the middle. Galatians 6:9, it says, let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time, what will happen? You're going to reap a harvest just as long as you don't give up. Just as long as you don't give up. And so in 2 Kings chapter 9, on down a little further in verse 15 and 16, it says, King Joram was wounded in the fighting. He had returned to Jezreel to recover from his wounds. And so Jehu told the men with him, he said, look, if you want me to be king, don't let anyone leave town. And let's go to Jezreel to report what we have done. And so it says, then Jehu got into his chariot, and he rode to Jezreel to find King Joram, who was there lying wounded. King Ahaziah of Judah was there too. And so these are 2 guys that he's been charged with taking out. And he's got this decision moment. He's like, okay, I've been given this word. I know what's fixing to happen. I know what this wait means. But man, I am just caught in the middle of what has been and what needs to be. And it says, then he had a then moment. So sometimes when we're stuck in the middle, we need a then moment that helps us get over the hump. I can remember Tori and I, we were new parents, we were young, we had a little baby that we didn't know what to do with. And I can remember all that he did was cry when we first brought him home, and like couldn't make him stop crying. And so the only way that we could make him stop crying was for him to just be on our chest at night. And so I know some of your parents are probably going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. But, you know, he's still alive. We made it. And we've got two more that are still alive, 3 total. Dear Lord, I hope there's not a 4th. I'm too old for that. But anyways, like literally, so at night, you know, he would sleep on our chest. And he would sleep on my chest. I can't stand to sleep on my back. I hate to sleep on my back. But I would sleep on my back. I did this for 4 months. We would barricade him around, and I would pat him till he went to sleep, and then he would stop crying. And like every now and then we'd try to lay him down in his bed, and he'd just cry. And so he'd wake me up, you know, 3 or 4 hours later, and I'd give him to Tori, and she'd do the same thing for the rest of the night, sleep on her chest. And so our pediatrician was like, look, you got to lay him down. And so we would try that, and then it wouldn't work. And she's like, look, you just got to lay him down. And like, he just cries. If he's crying, he's breathing. And so you got to lay him down. Let me tell you, that was a then moment because we laid him down. And after about 4, 5, 6, however many days of just crying, guess what he did? That dude started sleeping at night. And we knew that when the next ones came along, there wasn't going to be no 4 months of sleeping on my chest. We knew, just lay him down, right? We needed a then moment. Think about the disciples when they came back from fishing and they were just whooped. They were whooped. They didn't catch any fish. They were just tired. Jesus was like, hey, why don't you throw those nets down again? It sounds simple. Look, we were fishing this past weekend, and they had a little cast net. Now, this thing's tiny. But in a moment of error, it can get completely tangled up in just a jumbled mess. And so, like, this fishing wasn't that easy. Like, it wasn't just, hey, throw your net down. Like, it was work. They're tired. Throw your nets down. What do? What happens? They catch so many fish, they can't even get them in the boat. Like, it was this then moment of, okay, all right, God, look, I see you. I see who Jesus is. Look, we're ready. Let's go, right? Sometimes we just need a then moment when we're stuck in the middle. Look, Zeal can be that moment. I remember we were youth pastors, and you know, we started out, and we didn't really know what we were doing, and then we had kind of gotten the hang of it, and man, God was moving. Everything was going great. Ministry was thriving. We had a bunch of kids, and it was just awesome. And then a couple of things happened that brought in some discouragement, that brought in some questions of like, man, what are we doing? How do we do this? Why are we doing this? You know, we had a couple of miscarriages, and man, just spiritually, we had gotten weak. We weren't in sin or anything. We just had gotten weak. We were just discouraged. We were hurt. We were just confused. And I remember just having this moment of like, man, Tori, we got to get up. Like, I know this stinks, and I know it hurts, and I know it's hard. But man, we just got to get up. Like, we can't stay stuck right here in the middle of this. We got to get up. When we're stuck in the middle, there's always that then moment that brings us and propels us to keep going and to get to the end. Zeal can be that for you if you allow it. It will cause you to be faithful in the middle. Point number 3, zeal will cause you to move forward from your past. It will cause you to move forward from your past. And so it says in verse 18, it says, a horseman went out to meet Jehu, and he said, hey, look, the king wants to know if you're coming in peace. Jehu replied, what do you know about peace? See, in this moment, like, there wasn't peace. And in this moment, Jehu wasn't going in peace. He was moving forward from the past. He was about to try to bring peace, right? This wasn't where they were, but this is where Jehu knew he had to go. And so I want to challenge you today to think about your past, and I want to challenge you to know that your past cannot be something that poisons your present. We cannot allow our past to poison our present. Because let me tell you something, that's exactly what the devil wants to do. He wants to tell you that all of the things that happened in your past are all of the reasons why you can't do what God's called you to do today and going forward. He wants to shut you down and disqualify you, and you can't allow that to happen. You can't allow that to happen. Too many of us are constantly walking around with just this baggage that we carry, and it just continues to weigh us down, and it gets to the point where it just slows us down, and we can't move forward anymore. We can't move forward anymore. Let me tell you, the stuff that went on in your past needs to be something that propels you into your future, not keeps you from moving forward. I want to think about an athlete real quick, and think about an athlete that trains. What do they train with? They train with resistance, right? We have weight resistance. We have different things. And oftentimes I just pictured this athlete that was pulling this sled that has weight on it. And sometimes, their feet may be going 100 miles an hour, but they're barely moving forward. But let me tell you, what are they doing? They're training their bodies to know that, look, man, in the moment of hard times, when the going gets tough, I'm strengthening myself now so I'm ready to face what's in front of me tomorrow. What's in your past does not have to poison where you are now. It can only, if you allow it, God can help you, and it can make you stronger and better and more prepared for the things that he has in your future. The pain that you walk through in life is something that can be is something that can bring freedom in somebody else's life if you allow it to, and if you allow it to not keep you down and continue to poison who you are and where you are now. Don't allow your past to poison your present. Zeal helps you move forward from your past. Think about Paul. Think about Peter. Man, Peter denied Jesus 3 times. Paul killed Christians. They're 2 of the most prominent names in the New Testament in the things that they did for Christ. Your past, don't allow it to poison your present. The last one, number 4, it says, Zeal will cause you to face the hard decisions. Here we have Jehu. He set out on this mission to rid Israel of the reign and the dynasty of King Ahab. Man, that's tough. I'm just a guy. Like, in this moment, it's just me. I've got a hard decision to make. But what did Jehu have? What did he have? He had a word from the Lord. He had a word from the Lord. How many of you ever felt like, man, I really got a word from the Lord? I really feel like this is what God's called me to do. But how many of you have quickly taken that word and you dissected all of the things that are going to make it hard? And you're like, I don't know if I have what it takes. I don't know if I'm willing to make those hard decisions. Let me tell you, our zeal for the Lord will help us face those hard decisions and be triumphant. Pastor Rob Mooney, a pastor on staff at Bethany Church, he said this. He said, the difference between where you are at and where God wants you to be is the pain that you're not willing to endure. Sometimes hard decisions come with a little bit of pain. Are you willing to endure it for the Lord? Or are you just going to take a step back and say, I think that's where I draw the line. I think that's where I draw the line. Let me challenge you with this. Sometimes getting over the hump, sometimes getting on to the next phase of life, sometimes accomplishing what God has for you requires hard decisions. Are you willing to make the hard decisions? Let me tell you, our energy, our enthusiasm, our excitement for the Lord will help you overcome. But man, you can't lose it. You got to foster it in private. That's where it starts. It's developed in private. Amen? Y'all stand with me this morning.